The schedules are different, though. There's only 45 to 50 races in the late model series, World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil, that is. Whereas the sprint car schedules are all year long. Like there's 90, 85, whatever races it is for the World of Outlaws. There's 65 races for High Limit. They're racing every single week. That's the late models. They do a couple weeks that Lucas Oil's on, and then they're off for 3 weeks. But when they're off for 3 weeks, that's 3 weeks the World of Outlaws are racing. So their schedules are kind of, working off of one another. They really don't race on top of one another a lot at all. Whereas World of Outlaws and High Limit will race on top of one another all the time. And I believe Tim McCready said you could logistically run both series the entire year. Like the schedules, I believe, line up to where you could run for the championship in both series if you want to run up and down the road all year long and do crazy trips. Sometimes it'll be across the country, but you could do that. So it's just a different dynamic. The sprint car world's still in a fighting kind of two-side deal. They're still slapping each other around and wanting to have superior dominance, where the late model world's kind of used to the relationship. They've been married for way longer. They've been it's like the sprint car world is a new relationship, and they don't know how to commit to one another and work things out. It's like first year, 2 years into the marriage. They don't know what to do. They're just mad and want to run shit. Whereas the late model world, they're 20 years into working together, and maybe early on they had issues, but now they kind of got to where, I want a driver here, I want attention here, but let's just work together here and do the best for both worlds. Now, there's still competition. There's still wanting to be some dominance. I think if they lose Ricky Thornton Jr., I think they would battle for a Ricky Thornton Jr., a real chip. But if they lose Ricky Thornton Jr., the Lucas Oil Series, say, for instance, they're still just going to go along because they know they're going to have Ricky Thornton and Bobby Pierce show up at their events anyways throughout the year. It's not a complete loss. Whereas if David Gravel goes to High Limit, it's a complete loss pretty much for the entire year. You're not going to see David Gravel at a lot of World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series events because of the scheduling. So I think there's a bunch of different differences, but I would say that's a pretty good analogy. It's like the late models have been married for 20 years and know how to deal with one another. And the sprint car world with High Limit and World of Outlaws, they just got married and they're just trying to, boister or run shit. They're trying to solidify who's the dominant motherfucker in the building. And some people think there's only room for one of us in the sprint car racing industry. And so they're trying to fight because that's what the sprint cars have been used to all this time. They've been a single stuck-up little bitch all this time, so they don't want to be married. We are the leaders. We're the king. We're independents. So the sprint car racing industry is used to being this stuck-up, independent, I'm the leader and no one else is next with me and working together. No, that don't happen. We lead. I'm the man. So even High Limit in itself is thinking that's what I need to be too. I mean, it didn't just stay a midweek series. It created a schedule split. Now, the World of Outlaws properly didn't want to give up half their season like they would have to have a similar late model national series schedule. Because if you wanted the sprint cars to be like the late models at all, the World of Outlaws would have to cut their schedule in half. And High Limit, in essence, would have to cut 20-ish races off themselves. And they'd have to work together on scheduling to not step on each other's events and make sure each other can be at each other's race. That's where the late model world is, right? That's where they're at. The sprint cars have too much ego. They have too much short man syndrome. No offense to Rico. I know I made some Rico jokes over the last month or two that pissed some people off. I've always joked with Rico in person about short people jokes. I don't know why that offended some people, but they have a short man syndrome complex to where they got to run shit. Fuck you. I think it's a lack of confidence, but I also think it's the World Outlaws trying to protect what they built, and it's a little more complicated, but these are the differences, in my opinion. So whatever series they have a better shot winning a championship, they make the choice that makes sense. Kind of like that. Somebody just said Lucas overlaps, probably, but not a lot. But the late model drivers, they basically go through speed weeks and they see where they're at in the championship. Like, you can't, if you have a horrible couple of nights in one series in particular, and you have a great couple of nights in the other series, and you're second or third in points in the World of Outlaws and you're 15th in Lucas, why would you not switch? You know, it doesn't even have to really do with competition or cherry picking. It just depends on how well you ran. So sprint cars is a single mom in her mid-30s, and late models is our grandparents with their marriage. Very similar, kind of. But, I mean, let's just say it. I mean, the sprint cars have been a successful single mom. You know, they've been a successful single mom for years. And they don't want to fuck that up. They don't want their independence to be fucked up anymore, any more than it's already been fucked with. This high limit deal came in with the midweek and asked for some cooperation and please just help with me and work with me. And, you know, Brad, this is how Brad proposed it. Just let your guys come and race. Tried to get that girl out of her ways. You know, it's going to benefit your people. It's going to make them more money. Let's all work together in a way. And the single woman said, "Fuck you, motherfucker." And then that guy was like, "Really, bitch? You really wanna act that way to me when I'm just trying to help you? I'm just trying to be kind." That's how it was proposed, at least. Is that the truth? Who knows? But High Limit reacted and said, "All right, then I'm gonna get my buddies and show you how badass I actually am." And now they're still in this marriage. They're married. You know, it wasn't like it was a jump-in situation. It was like they're together now. It's a scene. And yeah, now they're both still fighting and not willing to work with one another because this single independent bitch is used to being a single independent bitch, and that's how it's going to be. Fuck you. But who knows? Over the years, they could potentially be more like their grandparents that showed them how to do it the right way. Working together, giving and taking, being happy. So it's so like a toxic relationship. I would say that the current relationship between the World of Outlaws and High Limit is toxic. I don't know who would say it's not. They're both trying to run shit. In the analogy of the scheduling and everything, they're not taking weeks off for the other series. They're not letting each other race with one another. Or the World of Outlaws aren't letting their guys go. You know, they're still putting them on a leash because it's a control mechanism. They're not there yet. Should they be? Maybe the woman needs to be single for the rest of her life and die alone. I don't know. I mean, no, I'm just playing. But maybe the sprint car world operates better as a single individual on top. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. They're married now. High Limit's not going to go away. Flo has too much money for it to fail.